And we are live. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, wherever it is you are in the world, and welcome to another edition of Living World of Darkness, Rage Across New York. Our scene today finds us at the training grounds on the Talarian side of the Sept of the Green. Um, as per usual, the various individuals from the Guardian Corps or other Garu or kinfolk that are lurking are sort of looking to sharpen their skills or doing their thing. But of course, cubs can often be found doing their thing on the training grounds. And it is currently where Cammy happens to be sitting is at this place, sort of going over things on her laptop, just sitting there smoking and just kind of enjoying the ambient sound of people doing their thing. And this is where we'll set our scene.
Yeah, as people are doing their thing on the training grounds, there is Robin who is coming up to the training ground slowly. Um, she has started to take training from Simon with various mixed results. She's not very well trained or anything at all. So she approaches one of the dummies in the training ground, looks at it, kind of looks around to see like is anyone watching her because she's gonna feel so awkward hitting this thing. And when like she looks around and judges that, most people are just busy doing their own thing. She will awkwardly give a soft punk against the dummy just to kind of see how that works out. It probably swings back and forth a little and doesn't do much more, so that's okay. And she'll give it another slap and another one, and it just looks extremely awkward. She's not standing at all in the right position. Probably also not holds her fists up the right way. You know, thumbs kind of like having the other fingers kind of wrapped around the thumb. Like if that way you hit hard, you actually accidentally break your thumb. She does not know this. So another punch, and the training dummy swings a bit harder. And as she tries to hit it again, for some reason, the way that the training dummy swings at her and the way that her fist kind of connects with it, she gets caught up in the motion of said dummy and is just gonna find herself on the ground, flat on her ass. And her fist just hurts. She'll look around, gets extremely red in the face, and looks around if anyone saw that.
Well, as she sort of turns her head around, um, Cammy notices Robin going up to a one of the training dummies, and she kind of stops what she's doing, or at least looks up from her screen and sort of closes the laptop, and she just kind of watches, just observing, not necessarily to look to see anything in particular, but given how green Robin is, um, she has a certain interest. And so she watches. And then, as the events transpire, going poorly, um, she kind of lets out a snort uh, and shakes her head a bit. And she'll set her laptop on the stump that she was sitting on, and she'll make her way over to where Robin is currently on the ground nursing her hand.
Yeah. Robin looks up as she hears footsteps and sees Cammy and gets even like more red, possibly like tomato almost. Like it's almost like that red when you're almost thinking like, okay, she's gonna turn purple at this point. Um, and she'll quickly kind of get back up to her feet and kind of awkwardly hiding her hand behind her back as she looks at Cammy and yeah, looks back at the ground. Hey,
Just take a sort of a inhale, and she crosses her arms over her chest, takes a long drag off of her cigarette,
please
puts
don't
one
laugh.
hand up to take it out, lets out a breath. Difficulties?
Um, I don't think I'll ever really be much of a fighter.
It's kind of a shame, considering that Galliard is second only to an Arun in battle.
I've heard that, and I thought, maybe I'm just somewhere deep inside I might be better at it, but not really.
Well, tell me something you are good at.
Well, I am good in school. Um, Straight A's most of the time. All of the time. I can study pretty well. And yeah, I am good at being me. Definitely not good at fighting.
Well, let's take your academics into account. What's your field of study?
Psychology.
So before you ever took a class, did you really know all the details about Freud?
No, of course not.
So coming into that class, if someone were to have asked them to tell them, asked you to tell them, sorry, out of character, asked you to tell them, about some of his theories, hypotheses, and some of his dissertations, how would you have done when you first came in?
Well, if I would have known beforehand that I would be asked questions about Freud, I would have
Nope,
read up on him.
not what I mean. If you went in just cold and someone asked you that, was the first thing they asked you when you walked into the class?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I get your point, but I just don't think I will ever really like the fight.
Well, that's okay. And she'll offer her hand down.
Yeah, she'll take it.
And Cammy will help her up to her feet.
Yeah, Robin will get up and Still kind of holding that one hand awkwardly behind her, like she didn't really get a good chance to study it. So she's not even sure. It just hurts. Actually, yeah.
It's easy for people who weren't born into this to feel as though you're not ever going to be good at it, or that you can't do it, or that it's too much. But you do eventually find your footing, so to speak.
It's just a bit frustrating, you know? There's so many things to learn, and there's nothing on paper. There's no curriculum. There's no home studies, homework, except for like 3 pages of stuff that looks like it's been written by some sort of farmer.
Yeah, a lot of Garu tradition is oral.
Yeah, that just doesn't really make any sense to me. Like, I mean, I understand the importance of being together and telling stories and everything. Sure, but if you don't write anything down, how can I like study for it? Like I'll always have to wait until I hear it from someone. Or if it's just simply written down, it would be so much easier. You can just reread it, you can learn it, you can cram it into your head.
Well, a lot of what goes on here isn't really within the scope of academic sort of learning. A lot of what you'll do is learn through trial and error, learn by observing, learn by doing. And it's going to be harder than anything you've ever done to this point.
The frustrating bit is just, looking at people who are no longer cubs. They're not that much older than I am. Like, even Jacob, he, he's what, like 5 years older or something, I think? And he's an Adrian.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I'm like miles away from that. I have so much to catch up to.
Well, how old are you?
19.
About 4 days ago, I turned 22. I'm not all that much older than you. I'm a Cleith.
I
It's
mean,
really not about the age that you are. There are some people that come into this and are Cleiths by the time they're 15, 16 years old.
well, I have a lot of catching up to do.
I wouldn't view it that way. And she'll start to walk back over to where she was sitting.
Robin hesitates for a moment as there's not been a clear invite, and this person is a Cleath after all. but she'll follow a little bit more slowly.
And Cammy sits down on one of the stumps. It's sort of in like a semicircle. And she'll reach down into her bag and grab out a Twinkie and toss it over to Robin.
Who will attempt to catch it, like has to use both of her arms for it, and does the few grabs in the air before she finally gets like a hold of the Twinkie. Probably squeezes a little bit too hard in it. But she has it, and she'll carefully open the wrapper and kind of lick this um, little cake thingy from. Probably has to lick it from like the plastic because it's squished.
One thing I've learned about adapting to Garu society, you have to do it at your own pace. If you try and rush it because you see people getting ahead of you or having an easier time with this, that, or the other, you're only harming yourself.
I mean, sure, I get that, but she says sure, but she obviously is not agreeing with it.
I mean, there's no two ways about it. You seem like you're motivated and you seem like you're frustrated from being at the very start of things.
I mean, wouldn't you be?
Yes and no. You're somebody who's stuck to what she's good at, I'm guessing.
I mean, I like to do what I'm good at.
You don't venture outside your box all that often, I would wager.
I mean, studying at Harvard pretty much means that you have to stay in the box just to stay in the box, you know? If I go venture outside of my box, I'll, like, my grades will drop. I won't be able to do my extracurriculum activities anymore. Um, like, the friendships that I have, they need maintenance.
So basically, you've done what is easy for you, and you haven't really challenged yourself.
I mean, I've pulled more all-nighters in, like, when I started university than ever before, and that includes like going out to party all night long.
But it was something you were comfortable doing, wasn't it?
I wouldn't call being up for over 24 hours and then have to go into like tests really comfortable. But did I enjoy it? Yes. Was I good at it? Of course.
So, in some senses, it's been easy for you. It's challenged you in a way that you're comfortable with. And then she'll kind of just gesture out towards the training dummies. This, however, fairly simple, fairly straightforward. Yet, it's harder for you. It's frightening to you. Because it's so vastly different than what you're used to.
Robin almost looks like she's pouting at that point.
Cammy just pats the stump next to her.
And she'll sit down. I mean, yeah, I never did a lot like sporty things. I went jogging. I tried some yoga, but I didn't really like it. Um,
if you had
And
kept
now
that back.
I have to do that.
Yeah. And I think that's why you're turning so beet red when you have to do this and you don't do it well. You used to excel at what you did because you did what came naturally to you. And now you're doing something that you find unnatural. Of course, it's going to be embarrassing when you're used to excelling.
And Robin raises like a shoulder. It's like she doesn't want to admit that Cammy is right, but yeah, she can't really deny this. So after a few like seconds of awkward silence, she'll nod. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I know. That doesn't make it less annoying.
Well, sometimes you just have to bite your upper lip and just get through it. I had to. Everybody here did. You and I both came from a very different world than some people. We weren't raised into this.
Tell me about how you were raised.
She'll grab her bag up and put her laptop in it. And it looks like, she might have been put off, but when she stops and sort of gestures with her head for Robin to follow.
Yeah, she will.
And Cammy takes Robin to more of a kind of a quiet spot where there aren't all that many people, and the people that are around are well outside of earshot and focused on their own thing. And Cammy will sit down on a bench and wait for Robin to settle.
Yeah, she'll sit next to Cammy and kind of pull up one leg and just wrap her arms around it.
So I was born in Canada. I had it's just me and my mom and my dad. Pretty simple lifestyle out in the suburbs. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a systems analyst. I got really into computers through my dad. She'll smile. They were something I found I was good at. And because it was a passion that me and my dad shared, we got really close. It's easy to relate to him. And because my mom was a teacher, I was always able to relate to her. Because she would always help me with things that I needed to excel in my academic life up to that point. I had a pretty good childhood. But of course, my teenage years were a little bit more rambunctious. I tried to fill my life with excitement. And I found people who were into the same things that I were into, but I wasn't to, and they weren't the best crowd. She'll sit back with kind of a smirk on her face. They were into computers like me, but they like to apply themselves in a very shady sort of way.
And I take it you enjoyed that?
It was fun. Most of it was elaborate pranks or, you know, changing our grades so we were on the honor roll. Every now and then, we took money out of people's accounts. Remember one time we financed an entire weekend of going out and playing laser tag and shopping sprees and buying all the newest computer parts and whatnot that were out and about in the mid 2000s. But you can only do so much for so long. When we started looking into getting into bigger and better things, it's when we found that buying and selling personal information was very lucrative. Time I was 14, I had probably close to $30,000 to my name, most of it ill-gotten. And when you do something like that, eventually people find out. And when they come a calling, sometimes things go bad.
Uh, how bad was it?
Oh, if you would like to P&E her at this point.
Sure, yeah. Let's see. I see things happening in.
I'm using this right now. Oh, 747. It is 8:02.
I think we can just use extra dice roller 1. Or.
Dice roller 1 is fine. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Let me see my P&E. 3 successes.
Given the grim expression on her face, there's certainly pain in what she's talking about.
You don't have to tell me if you don't want to.
Well, people swarmed my house, government agents, um, the RCMPs, police force, state police came in. They were looking for me. And the stress of all that brought me into a world I didn't even know about. It was in my blood. It was in my parents' blood. There's a world they didn't know about either.
Difficult, I take it.
My mom and dad died. They weren't able to handle what they saw. And the people that came to get me, they couldn't have liability. Neighbors, remaining law enforcement, my parents were all killed, and I was carted off, bleeding and unconscious.
I'm sorry.
She shrugs. I use it now as a reminder that our consequences have actions. They'll always have. Did I just say that consequences have actions?
Yeah, you did, but I understood you meant it the other way around. I wasn't going to mention it.
God damn it. But yeah, she kind of just takes a sigh and looks over. I was 14 when all that happened. I was already old enough that trying to come into a different world was not exactly I wasn't ready for it. I was too ingrained in the human world. I still am. I haven't given up on who I was.
I don't think there's anything wrong with sticking to yourself. I think there are many things that change when we change, and it's easy to lose oneself. It's harder to keep hold of it.
Oh, I certainly have had difficulty at times, but I've made do. And I may not be the best theurge or the best Garu, but I'm productive. I do what I can.
I don't think anyone is asking you to be the best.
I'd like to be.
Who doesn't?
She just kind of smirks. Which is why that reasoning that you're using, nobody's asking you to run a marathon or a sprint to catch up to everybody else.
I know no one is asking it. But I prefer it that way. I need to have that finish line there, and at least try and be the first to cross it. Even if I don't succeed, I want to do the best. I want to make sure that there's absolutely no doubt to anyone that I tried my damnedest to win it.
Cammy starts like chuckling to herself, sort of leaning her head back. You sound like so many people within my tribe.
You're a glasswalker, right?
She nods.
I mean,
We like being better than everybody else. Or at least perceived that way, whether it's in our own minds or not. Most of the other tribes don't like us.
how come?
Because we walk a very fine line between Gaia and the Weaver.
Hmm. See. Is that why you chose to become a glasswalker? To walk that edge again?
It was a natural fit. I was already a cyber criminal. But I was brought up amongst glasswalkers and shadow lords as a Garu. Was fostered by several different families of glasswalker and their kin. And they nurtured what I was good at, gave me purpose. I really didn't choose being a glasswalker so much as it was just the right fit.
Fair enough.
You're you're set on a path that could take you to become one of the Silver Kings, so to speak.
Yeah,
That's what's going to be expected of you.
I know. Actually, just had a conversation with the den mother about it. I still want to. I want to have a bigger understanding of the other tribes. I think it's important in any regard, whether I will become a Silverfang or not. But what I've heard of the Silverfang so far, what Jacob has told me, I think that I would not mind being on the path of the Silverfangs. Of course, I realize that I need to learn more. I mean, I've been here not for too long. For now, it is not something that I am against.
Well, blood is only going to get you so far in life. Hereditary monarchy is only going to get you so far. But Silverfangs have value, and if you don't join them, and you go another tribe, certainly there are going to be people that will be very upset. Probably not Jacob so much, but there'd be enough.
There may be, I don't know. But ultimately, it's up to me to decide where I fit and not up to anyone else.
Amy has the cigarette between her fingers, and she just points at Robin with a smirk. It's a good way of thinking.
What can I say? I like to be able to make my own choices.
Self-absolution is not something we're always afforded. Cherish it when you can do it. Anyone ever talk to you about the Glasswalkers?
Not yet, no.
They're the only thing I'm qualified to really talk about. Unless you want to really hear what my opinion of the other tribes are.
I mean, I am up for learning. I would really like to learn about what the Glasswalkers are and how they deal with the nation and with the rest of the world.
Well, we're we're an interesting lot. We've always been considered tainted ones because we've gotten so close to humanity and thus the Weaver. But most of the other tribes seem to disregard or they've forgotten the fact that that's what Gaia bid us to do. We were purposed with getting in amongst the humans, getting to know them, understanding them, being the bridge between the nation and humanity itself. For a while, a very long time, we were given the title of Warders of Men. You know, we're the tribe that has changed its name, are the only ones that really have changed their name. They're called Warders of Men up until the Industrial Revolution. And we were called Iron Riders. Which sounds really, really fucking cool.
It
And
does.
when the age of skyscrapers and computers came about, we became known as glasswalkers.
Interesting shifts.
Well, that's what our totem wants for us. Cockroach. Not the most glamorous totem in the world. It's certainly not as noble as the falcon or as revered as Fenris. Certainly doesn't inspire feelings of kinship and oral history like Stag does. But it's cockroaches wanted one thing for us and one thing only, and that's for us to adapt. That's what they want. That's what we'll do. will
I mean,
change as the world changes.
I was about to say, I guess that's a good thing.
Certainly helped us in a lot of ways, but it's also alienated us away from tribes that, through no real fault of their own, sort of stagnate. They uh, they have their rich tradition and they hold on to it like a man who's drowning in the ocean grabbing a hold of a lifeline. For them, it keeps them rooted and gives them an identity of who they are. But it has also hurt them. Sometimes tradition can hold you back. Sometimes
Sometimes,
holding on to the old ways is counterproductive. Not always, but there are instances.
yeah, I can see where it can strengthen one's beliefs and resolves, but mm, I'm not a huge fan of tradition. I'm not saying it's not important, and I think especially here, like a lot of things are tradition-wise are important. I've heard people talk about rights and everything, and I guess they're passed on from generation to generation. And I mean, I can understand why people do that because it's easier to hold on to something that never changes. Like I said, it strengthens you. But I mean, to still act like you're in medieval times. I mean, I don't presume anyone is really doing that, but
I would. Many of the people around here are extremely archaic.
oh dear.
I'm not necessarily saying that as a disparagement against anyone. It just is what it is. Take a look at people like Aiden and 10 Point. And they have this very old vibe about them. They're steeped in tradition.
I mean, I've only met them once. Well, I mean twice, but once was we've only been able to talk once. The other time we were just yesterday we were just trying to not get killed and kill things at the same time. They were more busy with the killing things. I was more busy with not getting killed.
Well, if they had to adapt to a situation uh, where their traditions failed them, it could be very difficult for them to adapt on the fly. You sort of have a look out, sort of an outlook on the other nations, and not all of them are favorable. They're not meant to disparage, but it's we recognize weaknesses where we see them. We recognize strength where it is. Sort of goes in hand with my howl today.
Um, your Hal?
Guess you weren't in the Umbra today.
I'm not really at ease of being in the Umbra.
Well, my old packmate Desmond Shreds the Corrupt has left the city.
Oh, I'm sorry, I guess. Pack is like family, right?
I'm not sorry he's gone.
Oh,
He proved to the Sept, to the nation, what I already knew. But I took responsibility and ownership of what was done in the name of my pack. And I said things that were harsh, but they had to be said. And I was willing to bear the shame until I had done some meretricious act that proved otherwise.
why should you take the shame for someone else?
Because of the world that surrounds me.
That is a common thing amongst Garou?
Someone within your pack screws up royally. If you're the one that's in charge of that pack, or the beta to that pack, it's your responsibility to guide your alpha. I didn't do a good enough job to guide him where he needed to be. I had to say very harsh things about him. I called him a litany breaker, a disgrace to his auspice, and a coward for running. But he was all those things because I didn't do enough as beta. I couldn't
Are you,
reach him.
are you sure that was your fault, though?
Maybe not. But people around here like to hear that someone's willing to take up responsibility.
Um, I've heard Jacob talking about the Silver Fangs. He said that they are the leaders because they're willing to do what's necessary to do. So I understand your concept of wanting to take responsibility for someone else's actions. But I do also believe that when you do so, you have to look at yourself. If you feel you've done everything that you can, then maybe it was not your fault at all.
Well,
Though I do
never,
think it's a noble action of yours. Don't get me wrong on that.
well, that's part of why I did it. While everything I said I do feel, what I said was true, and what I wanted was exactly part of what I said, there was a lot of undertones to it. Pragmatic is what I tried to be. I know that I need people to stick up for me when things get bad. I know I'm going to need to ingratiate myself to the leadership of the various packs of the SEP leadership. I have to look good for my own people. I'm the only glasswalker here, really. I have to excel. I have to be a shining example. So, saying what I've said, taking all that responsibility onto myself was a matter of an ugly thing that needed to be done, a hard thing that needed to be done. But the long term benefits will be worth whatever comes from it.
Hmm. So you feel you have to take on more responsibility since you're representing your tribe.
In a way, yeah. Tribal identity, once you choose one, is important. And take a look at the stereotypes that are out there, various tribes. Take a look at people who consider the Wendigo people who just have an axe to grind and are stuck living in the past. Some people go as far to call them drama queens.
The Wendigo?
They're one of the tribes. They're one of what they call the peer tribes, native peoples that lived here in this country.
I've heard about them. The dead mother is Uktena, and she mentioned them, but I don't know much about Wendigo.
I don't know much about them either, other than it always feels like when one's looking at me, they want to kill me. People I've seen represent their tribe are very harsh, unforgiving, and they are certainly willing to blame you for the misdeeds that happened several centuries ago. Granted, the destruction of the indigenous people of this country was pretty damn horrific.
And as far as I know, is still going on, albeit not in the horrific ways that it was in the past.
For the most part, the nation isn't involved in that anymore. We don't have instances of Get or Fianna descending on a pure tribe cairn and taking it. That's the way things used to be.
Hmm. Maybe they are stuck in the past then. I don't know.
You and
I'm
I have
not.
never, you and
Hmm?
I have never faced the systemic murder of our own people.
True. And even if maybe they have not gone through that personally, feelings are very hard to dismiss.
That they are. Which is why I try not to have an opinion one way or the other, and I certainly don't express it all that often when I do.
I think that's a very safe option indeed.
Like I said, I try to be as pragmatic as possible. But back to the glasswalkers. Most of our gifts involved taming the city, navigating the city. Just a few months ago, I learned a right that will make it, as long as we are obeying the traffic laws, every light will change to green and cars will move out of the way for us.
That's, well, impressive.
I know. I found it a bit ludicrous myself, but it works. We deal with a lot of spirits that are weaver spirits, which makes us really good at just existing, hell, even thriving in a place like this. We do just as well as the Bonars do, though they do more with less. I have a lot of respect for them. They don't let dignity and pride get in the way of survival and duty.
Is that because of your own reasoning, or because, as you said earlier, other tribes don't respect you as much since you walk so close to the Weaver?
I guess a bit of both. Being a glasswalker means that you have a fairly big chip on your shoulder. You know that anytime you're in an urban environment, you are the best one for any job that takes place in the city. And you really want to put that in the faces of those that would call you Ura.
I can understand that. It's your pride.
I said, I have respect for the Bonars because they don't let that get in the way.
Hmm.
I'd say our pride is probably our biggest shortcoming as far as my tribe is concerned.
Pride can be like anything, really, both a negative and a positive feature.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, pride can get in the way, but it can also give you the will to carry on, to take responsibility, to get going, to keep going.
Spoken like a true Silverfang. She just sort of looks over at Robin, just kind of steadying her features.
Mm, Robin shrugs at the comment. I don't know about that. I've been here like a week now, and sure, I've got an impression, but there is so much that I still have to learn before I could call myself a Silverfang, or even someone who is ready to try and become a Silverfang. And I know little about, like, I've learned something about Uktena now, I've learned something about the Glasswalkers now, but there are still many more that I need to learn about.
Seems almost a waste to send you off petitioning to become a Silver Fang. You have the right mindset to be a Glasswalker. She just kind of smirks. She's half joking. It's pretty clear that she's half joking, but she's half serious.
Well, who knows? Maybe if I do not want to become a Silverfang, I'll go looking at the other tribes.
Well, who says that you're good enough to join the other tribes? And that smile just gets a bit bigger, far more playful than anything.
Then I'll just make sure that I'll be good enough. Which means that I'll have to tackle that dummy at some point, instead of it tackling me.
Yep. And it seems that through just a bit of gentle guidance, you've come full circle.
Yeah. I already knew that I had to tackle it, but it's sometimes easy to say you can't do something. I mean, I've proven yesterday that even though I am completely untrained, I can use my claws
Mm-hmm.
while being on fire even, and
Mm.
hit into a thing and try and kill it, which I did never expect I would do.
Be careful about killing. Seem like you have a really good heart.
I hope so.
Taking the lives of anything isn't easy. And before you become a Cleith, you'll probably be required to kill someone who's not of the worm.
I seriously hope not.
I've had to. I've had to kill a couple of night watchmen that were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and as the litany says, the veil shall not be lifted. That sort of thing can weigh on you.
I hope I'll be able to find another way.
Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
that seems to be about the only thing that I can do.
I think it's the only thing that any of us can really do.
I guess. Anyway, it was a pleasant conversation. Thank you.
Glad I could be of help.
Most definitely. I'll see what I can do about that dummy now.
Bit of a pointer.
Yeah?
Don't tuck your thumb into your fingers. And lock your wrist when you throw a punch.
Right. She'll kind of hold up her fists and then pulls her thumbs from in between her fingers and just holds them up, not quite sure where to put them then, and finally ends up just laying them on top of her fingers. Well, let's see if that goes any better.
Just keep at it. And eventually it will get better.
I can only hope so. Thanks again. She'll give a kind of wave and smile as she walks back to the training dummy and, well, attempts to hit it again, a little more enthusiastically at this point.
And Cammy sits there, smoking and just sort of staring at the ground, contemplating. And I think that's where we will end our scene. Thank you, players, for playing, and thank you, watchers, for watching.